Sometime in early March, I began keeping a thread on Twitter related to the COVID-19 virus in Maryland. As a baseline, the state's health department would post the latest statistics sometime after 10 a.m. I would take a screen capture of the table, keep a copy in my local files, and include the picture in my timeline with whatever thoughts I had or trends I might divine. At first, there was only the number of confirmed cases, with maybe a breakdown by county. And over time, the number of data categories increased, sometimes with controversy. I remember seeing Montgomery County and Prince George's County, our neighbors adjoining Washington, D.C., light up exponentially on that 24-hour reporting clock. And I remember wondering when it would escape and sack us on its way to Baltimore City. I remember the first death in the state. I remember the first case in our county. I remember plotting the graphs and forecasting when we would hit 1,000 cases, 10,000 cases, 100 dead, 1,000 dead, 2,000 dead. I remember when the New York Times began aggregating nationwide data by state and county, making the data and the daily updates available to the public, and I remember checking the numbers coming from the places where I have friends and family. I remember looking at different states and thinking things like, "It looks like you're just 5 days behind us. You'd better watch out." And I remember watching cases slowly rise within the cities along the highways headed toward my in-laws' homes. Italy was in ruins. New York City was on fire. Sweden said, "Screw it," while elsewhere locked down. Kentucky and Tennessee went in opposite directions, as did other states, often by party lines. People pointed outwardly to countries led by women showing lower numbers. Well, until those numbers changed. Looking inward, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. It changed from day to day. And anyone can get a test, they said. But from where exactly? States bid against one another and against the federal government itself to secure supplies when the president told the governors, in summary, "Fuck it, it's on you." With shows of strength or lunacy, politicians flaunted wearing no masks, even inside medical facilities where policies demanded it. And I'm sure there were some who enjoyed watching different leaders succumb. And as Easter approached and the churches remained closed, as graduation days approached and schools scrambled to find a way, the people grew restless. From inside the cities, the capitals, and the D.C. Beltway itself, folks did what they could with what information they had, but the rules they derived were applied too broadly. And the news reached everywhere, generally faster than the virus could, and particularly to places across the land where few infected would ever have cause to go. And so the virus did slow. In retrospect, many of those states never were just days behind us on the curve. Today, there are 10 states with fewer than 100 deaths each, around 20 with fewer than 500 deaths each. As a matter of fact, today there are 5 entire states that have had fewer total cases than my one county in Maryland has today. And of more than 2,000 dead in Maryland, a bit over 1,000 of those were in assisted living facilities. And I've actively watched the numbers for Worcester County in Maryland, the home of the beachfront Ocean City that opened for the Memorial Day weekend. So far, there's no visible spike in the data to suggest an outbreak. Instead, life is moving on with the news cycles, currently the Black Lives Matter protests, and we in Maryland seem to have grown accustomed to finding 1,000 new cases a day and losing 100 people every 2 to 4 days. Just fine. Cars are moving on the streets, and airplanes overhead are once again interrupting my recording. There's still a lot besides the airplanes that's up in the air. There are concerns that some places are still burning too hot, that opening is premature, and that we're exposing ourselves to an excessive risk of a second wave. And simultaneously, there are concerns that this is all dragging on for far too long, that the numbers are inflated, and that the risks are overstated. And depending on your locale, for now, and personally, what is most interesting to me is how fragile our understanding can be, how our perspectives, individual and collective, change over time with location and with accumulating stress, how we acclimate to and rationalize our situations, and how we will react when others' views are imposed upon us, for better or for worse. Oh, right, and how soon we may forget it all when the news cycle changes. As usual, we'll see what tomorrow brings, and update our thinking accordingly.